welcome to episode number 2 of our podcast talk interview.
Yeah.
This is the cast.
Yeah.
Or the name, insert name of podcast here.
We'll have to do a voiceover when
Okay.
This is the
cast. Yeah, we're still deciding names, aren't we? We haven't.
We got some good names though, but yeah, it's hard though, isn't it? It's like naming your child.
It is, and you can't change it, can you?
Yeah.
Can you imagine calling you
Technically
Gandalf?
you can, but yeah.
We
Yeah,
could.
What if we get really popular, millions of people listening, and then we decide we want to change it?
Yeah.
Start all over again.
Rubbish.
So, yeah, you got to get it right.
So yeah, we're not rushing. I think it's more about the content than the name, isn't it? Yeah, that's the most important
I hope so.
thing. Yeah, so I think we're going to start off with the tea again. I've just put some hot water into everything just to wash it out, kill some bacteria and stuff like this. Chris, do you want to talk about what we're doing this week as I set up some tea?
Yeah, sure. So we are, for episode 2, I'm going to ask you some questions. Q&A with Sensei.
Okay, Q&A. I'm glad we've got the episode titles down. Q&A with Sensei. Yeah, that's nice.
That's a pretty good one.
The third one is our surprise one.
Yeah,
it's going to be also good.
I was going to ask if but I think we don't really. That'll be a secret until next week.
Yeah.
There's a reason we're doing it, the Q&A with you, but also it's interesting for me.
Yeah, let's hope. Last week we tried to get that 5 grams. This week I've got 5.2, so that's pretty good. Let me see if I can show this up close to the camera so you can see.
Black tea again?
Yeah. Black tea again. I forgot to bring some
Yeah,
more
I forgot
tea.
as well, though, so it's fine.
We didn't win this week. I accidentally put water in this, so that's also another mistake. But that's alright.
I like the black tea though. It was nice.
It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was nice. I think for some posh tea, it was good. So this episode, you're gonna ask me questions.
I'm gonna ask you some
I'm in the
questions.
hot seat today.
The thing is, I've got questions, but I don't want to just reel off questions and you answer them like a job interview.
Okay, yes. So I guess in that, should we just enjoy some tea first?
We can enjoy some tea.
Yeah. So I'm heating up the water. Okay, in the last week, what's happened for you then?
Good point. Yeah, so that's a really good question.
Trying to make this smooth, Chris. I'm a conversationalist.
Not too much. Got my orange belt.
Yeah,
I say not too much. I'm being sarcastic. It was huge.
Yeah.
Getting my first grading.
Yeah. And how do you think that went
on Saturday? I think it went all right. I have fairly high standards for myself, and I always try and do the best I can. So whenever you present a sort of tiered system of this is how well you can do, I never just want to scrape by sort of thing.
Sure, of course. And that's a great way to be, isn't it?
Yeah. It is great, but similarly, dealing with what could be viewed as failing can be quite difficult. So I got a merit between pass, merit, and distinction for my going from white belt to my next belt up, orange belt. And I was sort of a bit like, I could have done better, but I was quite happy with that because I've been coming for a couple of months, and you guys have high standards at the end of the day, so it's not like it was going to be really easy. And I know given an extra month or two, that's a huge amount of time that I could have developed further. But similarly, now I'm starting from orange belt. It's almost like a new chapter. It's like, right, I can aim for that distinction in 3 months and go for it all again, sort of thing. So I was really happy with the grading. I had visions of me sort of falling over during katas and all of this.
Forgetting the moves and being put on the spot, maybe.
Yeah. Or just doing like going the wrong way with the blocks and that sort of thing. Those typical sort of nerves, like, oh, what if, but it was also made easier or more comforting because it's only me sort of thing. So I'd say the last time I had something similar was when I passed my driving test.
Okay, yeah.
About 2 and a bit years ago, and that was like I can do the test, but if someone cuts me up and forces me into a mistake,
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna, you know.
I was always scared about the red light. What was if a red light came and you either had to brake really hard or go too fast?
Yeah.
That's always came into my head.
Yeah. But then part, you know, similar to the grading as well. The whole point is that you guys teach us everything we need to know, and although we don't have it's not like we have a mock exam either, like we're so used to in school. So in school,
it's pre-grading.
Like, we have
I
pre-grading,
guess, yeah.
but I guess that it's not. You're not trying to hold our hands all the way. The whole point is you're sort of giving us the room to so you guys can see, right, how much have you actually paid attention.
Sure.
I guess is part of it.
You mean like a mock exams are basically letting you do the test first?
Yeah.
And
almost,
it's a bit too...
They're almost as intense. The only difference on the day between a mock exam and the actual exam, let's say in GCSEs, is that you are doing the actual exam and not the mock exam.
Yeah.
Like you literally have the same bits of paper, very, very similar questions, the same amount of time, and it's like it's all exactly the same. And I guess the pre-grading was like that. So that was 2 weeks prior to the actual grading, right? Two weeks. Yeah. So that was similar, definitely, but it's just it doesn't have the same pressure. It can't really prepare you for what it's like, at least for a first grading. And because of that, it was really good. It was interesting. And it's with having quite a few people there. Obviously, it helps, but
the energy's always good, isn't?
Between the white belts, it was like we all, well, most of us knew each other quite well. I wanted the other guys to do really well. I felt like there was excitement there as well. So when we had a bit of a break and we'd sort of done our catters and now it was our time to watch the orange belts and the high, you know, the orange and red do theirs, we were sitting down and immediately we were talking amongst each other and we were quite excited. We were just like still full of like, oh yeah, sort of thing, that like energy. So it was nice, and like I said, we all wanted each other to do really well, and rather than saying like, oh, how do you think you did, like immediately like, oh, you did really well sort of thing. Obviously whispering and quiet and that sort of thing, so on the edge of the dojo. But
it's funny that the grading thing you just mentioned it, because having last graded was 19 years ago. At the age of 10.
Crazy.
But I remember, this is my black belt grading. Telling myself, this is going to be perfect. Every count I'm going to do it phenomenally. I remember that kind of mindset of like, just destroy it.
Yeah.
They're never going to see anything like it. And I haven't had that feeling really.
Did you destroy it?
Yeah, I did good. Yeah, I think so. I can't remember what I got. It would have been a merit or distinction. Hey, you remember? Do you know what's funny as well? From episode 1, I remember after I taught you that thing, I think it was my brother or my dad. He's like, you forgot to tap.
Oh, right.
They were checking every time you got to. But then I think there was one time you tapped a couple seconds after. I was like, he's all right.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay.
You redeemed yourself.
Yeah.
So,
thanks for pouring it in.
Yeah. So good. So we've had our update. So then for me in the last week or two, I've just been...
You've been conducting gradings
as
well, right?
and pre-gradings and...
that seems to be a busy time for you guys. Like I see the demeanour change, the not the mood change, because that makes it sound like it's worse, but I see the sort of like you really put on your sensei hat.
I think,
I think it's so. Like, and when we walked into the dojo as well, it's like, there's a bit of a different feeling. It's like today's the day.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna be looked at, critiqued, sort of thing. It's as an adult, it's something you don't get very often.
Yeah.
And like you said, like what, 19 years ago.
19 years ago.
Yeah. So even you, like, you're not, I guess, put in that situation.
Yeah, I guess like the most comparable thing would be like exams and interviews. I'd say more like an interview for me. Grading's more like an interview. However, I feel like it always helped me to prepare for it, and going to an exam or an interview was never really that scary for me, just because I've been looked under a microscope from every 3 months for the last however long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first grading?
I remember first. I would have been 4 years old. And any gradings I do remember. I remember my black belt.
Yeah.
I remember where I sat at the end. I remember the feeling and my mindset going into it.
Were you with other people also taking that?
Yeah. It would have been brown and black belts. I can't really remember who I was with because I don't think any of them trained still.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? 19 years ago, so.
Yeah. You would have been,
10. Yeah. 10 years old.
I'm guessing you were like the youngest.
Yeah, it was newspaper worthy. If you went to the newspaper at the time, I would have been in there.
Okay.
Yeah, which I did not really. I didn't like mentioning it to people because it just draws attention.
Yeah.
You know, my mom and dad wanted to shout about it. But
Yeah,
for
of course,
me, it's a thing. I think that's it. We've had some tea. We're getting on with that.
That's nice.
Do you want to fire away your first question, maybe?
Yeah. So, well, what's your? I guess we'll go out of. You were quite early starting, then 4 years old. Was that when you first tied your belt on? Was that first time on? You know, in the dojo practicing, or? Well, I guess a bit of backstory. What was it? You've grown up in karate.
Yeah, karate family, and that's so. My dad's an 8th dan now. My mom is I think 3rd or 4th dan, but she's had a black belt. That's how she met my dad. There's me, and then my brother is a black belt. Started at the same time, pretty much. My sister started when she was 2. Apparently properly started when she was 2.
Wow.
And I don't know when she got her black belt, but young again, I guess, 10 or so. And then my other sister got to brown, and then she escaped and she went to ballet instead. But what she did with the ballet, she took it very seriously. So it wasn't just a little after school thing. She's now a professional ballerina. Do you know what I mean? So and I think my dad would say that really helped her. Development.
Oh, yeah.
She started ballet late in the ballet world. She started at like 10.
Okay.
9, 10. These girls are there from 4 years old doing their little thing. And she got a scholarship and all this. So, yeah, for me, probably properly 4. Before that, I would have done this and that on the dojo.
Yeah.
But not formally anything real.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me.
That's it. Did you ever, like as a kid, sort of want to do other activities, or was it, from your earliest memories, was it like, I do karate, but I also enjoy it as well? Because as a parent, I know that I worry about forcing my kids down a certain path and being attentive to, like, if they want to do guitar lessons or something, I'll be like, great, because I love music.
Yeah.
And I almost want them to go down that path, sort of thing. So I don't want to get too heavily and like, no, that's what you're doing. Was there anything else where you thought, oh man, I wish I'd done that as well, or?
Well, my mum was pretty good. So she took us to like swimming. We went to athletics. Yeah. We went to rugby. There were other things, like I did some like tutoring, so there was always the academic side.
Yeah.
So I never felt like I sacrificed my karate for other things. There was a bit of a mix. I think.
Did you ever struggle to balance the karate with other things, or
I think the cake. The cake was the karate.
Right. Okay.
Everything else was the icing and the cherry on top. You know what I mean? So I guess for me, you have other kids that they're into cricket or they're into swimming. That's their thing. For me, it would have been karate with like other things on the side.
Yeah.
And. For me, that was okay. Did I feel left out? No, it was okay. Yeah. And you talked about your like worrying about your son liking stuff. If you're a parent, you can't listen to your kid if they hate something. Or what am I trying to say? It's very easy for kids and adults alike to. I don't want to go to karate today. I'm too tired. I don't like it. If then okay, yeah, we'll stop then, darling.
Yeah.
Then the kid's never ever gonna achieve anything, and I think the real achievement is just sticking at something for long enough.
Yeah.
And we have good days and we have bad days and this.
Yeah.
So I think that's the hardest thing. I think a lot of people's biggest problem is just the commitment and the ups and downs of their motivation or discipline, really.
Yeah.
For having a dad in karate, there was no choice for me. Yeah. Even when I didn't want to go, I still got dragged.
Yeah.
And once you get there, it's fine, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a big thing. I guess it's a bit like having a dad. The more usual thing, especially in Birmingham, is having a dad who supports Aston Villa.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're a Villa fan. That's that. There's like almost no choice. You don't. You know, you don't get. You don't get a choice. So that's. I mean, that's good.
It had to get messed up. Damn. Okay. Well, I don't know how we're gonna do this. So, wandering foot under the table ruins the thing. Oh, how are we gonna do this now?
We can move the GoPro out of the way. We're done with
Should
the
we?
tea,
We are done with the tea, basically.
Oh, done with the tea. Done. People won't want to.
You don't want to look at the tea the whole time, do you? Well, I found after editing the first video, it was like it was first 10 minutes, and then after that it was okay. So after that, that mess. Yeah, we can move on. So, yeah.
So early. So, was it weird for you as a kid being fully involved in karate to see that other kids weren't involved in karate? So to see, so martial arts, it's one of those things. It's quite a probably esteemed thing to do growing up. But a lot of parents probably want their kids to do martial arts because it's not just the physical bit. It teaches a lot of other things. Did you have sort of preconceptions about people who didn't do karate? Or what I'm trying to say is, like, was it a bit odd to see other kids who were like really into cricket and you were like, really, cricket? Like, why? What? Or really into one thing and you had karate, and karate probably made sense. But what I'm trying to say is, to a lot of people, to me, doing karate and being brought up in karate and wanting your kids to do karate makes sense. Whereas, like, I'm detached from a lot of sports, so for a parent to want their kid to do, I don't know, like rugby, like 3 or 4 times a week and that sort of thing from an early age is like, really? Like,
I think maybe because the situation I was a kid, I was in as a child, I probably felt like I was the weird one.
Okay.
Maybe. No one, especially, primary school, and, like, let's say I was the only, like, black or half black kid in my year at school. So I was automatically weird, and then on top of that, I do karate. All these kids can talk about football. I got no idea about football. So it was always like I was the one with the weird hobby activity. Yeah. Was that a problem? Like, no, not really. I just didn't really choose to share and shout about it because I know that no one really knows or what it is. Oh, I do karate. Hi-ya! Like that's the reaction you get, basically.
Yeah. Were other people interested as well? I mean, like say, initial reaction might be like, oh, so you.
Yeah, I always found that from like a young age, it was something I kept to myself. Really, I think because my mom and my dad were so keen to tell the world that I'm a 10-year-old black belt and this and that. I didn't really have to work extra to let people know. Do you know what I mean? I tried to keep that as my secret.
Okay.
And I always found that it, especially with younger kids, it always brought a lot of negative attention because they go, oh, karate, so let's fight. And I didn't like fighting. I didn't want to.
Did that happen quite a lot?
I didn't get into necessarily lots of fights. However, it was the pressure or expectation that I should fight or something like this. And even later in life, when I've been more open about it, some of my friends have people that I know have, oh, he does karate, that's alright. I can be more slack because I've got someone that.
Right. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And most fights or situations like that I've been in have not been because of me getting into a fight. It's because I can get into a fight because I got Jumoke next to me.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Would that have been more in secondary school, teenager?
I'm thinking more about like university. There was a time when I was in China. There was a time.
Can you tell us about those times?
Well, I mean, like in China, we were in a new small town. Me and like my best mate and a couple of other people were there. We were there for some cycling event. We were just going to go and cycling, have a race. But in one of the evenings, we went out, had a bit of a party, had a bit of drinking, a bit of dancing. My friend was like, yeah, I'm going to go to the toilet or something. All right, see you later. A couple of minutes passed. Okay, I also need the toilet now. So I stand up and I go to follow him. And this guy is getting, when I walk around the corner, he's getting there's five guys with like girls around him as well. Like hitting him, beating him. There's a commotion going on of like physical. And I don't know what happened. I come in, I see my friend. That was, you ever seen Black Hawk Down, is it? No.
I haven't seen it.
Evacuation process. Bam, there was like 10 people there. And like, it wasn't a case of me trying to beat everyone off. I was just trying to get out safely. And I don't know what this guy was thinking. But he managed to start a fight with like 5 Chinese guys. And all these girls with the boyfriends and girlfriends or whatever. And if I wasn't there, I don't know, he probably would have got beaten to a pulp, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
I had another guy with me who ran off. So it was basically up to me to you know, to do that. And I guess being a black belt, being a karateka, it was down to me. If not me, who else?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And for my friend that didn't do martial arts, the one that ran away, for him, oh, there's a fight, let's run. Yeah. But for me, I was like, yo, my friend's getting beaten up or whatever. I need to go and save him.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this in class on Monday. Having a black belt or being a karateka is a burden. It's a real burden.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think other people around you can try and exploit that. Maybe I'm not. Yeah. Obviously, my friend didn't try and get in a fight and hope I'd help him out. But I've never gotten myself into a fight. It's only been through helping other people and through trying to defend this and that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you think it would be easier if just nobody knew?
If nobody
is in. Once you leave the dojo, you are normal man walking
put
on
my
the
shirt
street,
on.
and only family and people. If I saw you on the street, obviously I'd know, but. Would you reckon that's part of the burden, is that don't run away from people knowing, but similarly act in the right way? Or would you advise, say, kids going into secondary school or maybe past that into college, whatever, that they try and hide it? Or would what would your advice be?
I mean, I do say to my kids that what is the best kind of weapon? Right. And the answer to that, what I say, is a hidden weapon, a secret weapon.
Okay, that's cool.
So yeah, and I think it's quite true, really. Once everyone knows what I do and this and that, then it doesn't, you can conceptualize it. Once I've got all these secrets and hidden skills, then that's where the magic can really begin.
Yeah.
So for me to go around and boast about, I do this, I can do this fight, you're just attracting the wrong kind of attention.
Yeah, okay. To
be honest. And I think a real martial artist or karateka doesn't need to boast about their achievements or who they can beat up or what this and that. So for me, how I survived in school, being the way I was and the way I felt, not really talking about it was fine for me.
Yeah.
Once I got to university, I was open about it. It was cool.
Okay.
Even I think when I went to sixth form, when I was 16 to 18, it was okay then.
Right. Okay.
I think there's that immature stage of kids trying to find top dog and this and that, which I wasn't interested in. And that's, although I didn't really get into any fights with the kind of crowd I'm thinking of. I just remember the feeling of they think because I do karate that now they need to make me prove it or something. Right, and I'm not there to prove myself to them.
Yeah.
And
how did you used to deal with that then? Like this would have been during secondary school then, where people are starting to.
I guess not really. Did you know karate? Did you know at school?
That's a good question. I don't think I did. But even at secondary school, like that that's when your friendship groups get wider and wider and wider, and so you've got people who you're really close to, and then secondary to that, you've got people you might hang out with outside of school, and that group's quite big, and then wider and wider. So, like, we weren't super close during secondary school. No. I sort of knew you as like, oh, you're just another kid that listens to the same music and wears the same sort of stuff, and that was generally it. And yeah, I don't think I did know.
I think maybe there's certain types, because you were all right at school, but I'm thinking of like the chavvy kind of guys. Yeah. It's them that feel they need to prove it because they're all about this and that. And so amongst like you and some other people, it would have been not an issue. For some people, it is an issue, so I just kept it quiet.
For people not in the know about karate, then in theory, how easy would it have been for you just to, if you did get into a fight with someone, if you were backed into a corner, that sort of thing, would there ever have been a time where you would have to do karate? Yeah, even outside of school when you're hanging around.
Well, I mean, there was a time in school where I did use it once in year 7 or 8, and that's kind of all I needed to do to kind of establish myself as like, don't mess with me.
Okay. What happened? I have to ask.
Yeah. Just I could say the names. And you know, there was I'll say his first name, Phil.
Okay.
Do you remember Phil? Yeah. And he and another guy called Matt.
Yes, yeah. Good friend.
Yeah. They were following me around the playground. It must have been year 7. Why? I'm not quite sure, but they wouldn't leave me alone once dinner time.
Okay.
And I felt like threatened. I don't know what their deal was. Is it bullying? I don't know. And then we were basically in the middle of the playground, and Phil like squared up to me basically.
Right. Okay.
And then it snapped. That my patience snapped. I had a bottle of Coke in my hand at the time.
Okay.
I don't drink Coke. And I swung it around his head. So I would have hit him like here, temple, with this Coke bottle, boom. And then I kicked him Maigari, bam. So it was just like from here, just went bang, kick. And he took the hit here, kicked him, and he flew back like 5-10 meters. Okay. And I had Matt watch this, see me do this. And they walked off and left. That guy spoke to me with the utmost respect from every single day until we left school. Okay. And he was an alright guy, and I don't know why it happened. Maybe it was bullying, maybe they were picking on me for this and that. But we were part of the same friendship group.
Yeah, maybe it's a psychological thing. I think early on as well, if you're in year 7 and 8, the friends you do have, if you've got friends going into secondary school, you're sort of like good. And if you're, I think it's probably more male, I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's probably more female in a way, but the psychological sort of thing,
yeah,
like
pecking
scoping
order.
Out like you're weak, and if you're a bit cocky, you've got a couple of friends who have always looked up to you in years 5 or 6. Maybe you're the most popular kid in year 6 coming into year 7. You want to keep that going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think if anyone knew that I had karate, that would for me, I feel like that would have put more pressure on me. I was a average to small kid in my year. Yeah. My brother was he was a size 13 shoe at age 13. That's kind nice. Of thing. So he was big, so no one would have messed with him.
Yeah.
So even if you tell you did karate or ballet or whatever, no, they wouldn't have messed with him. Yeah. For me, tell you karate, I can beat up a black belt.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't need that stress.
Yeah.
So that was probably the most eventful physical thing I've had at school.
Yeah.
To be honest, I remember anyway.
Okay. How do you deal with is there a sort of fallout from that? So is there a period after that where you think, oh, I did the wrong thing, or was it more?
I did 100% the right thing.
Okay.
Well, I think, yeah. I had 2 guys, and I did just enough to stop it, and from then on, nothing ever happened.
Okay.
I mean, I think this is kind of, for me, it's like why we train. right? I never consciously thought about hitting him.
Okay.
It just got to a point where that level of the danger level went up. It passed the threshold, and my body, from whatever it trained, I had a Coke bottle. I don't train with a Coke bottle in my hand. Do you know what I mean? And it just went bam, and that was it. And that's literally what we're training for. Yeah. And there was no conscious decision.
Okay.
And I think it will happen if you push and push, it will happen. And I didn't go into wah mode. It was just from a standing position, this and that, and it was good.
Yeah, that's cool, because I think the reason I ask is a lot of the introduction to karate for most people is fighting, and therefore and then you come to classes and then you rein it in a bit, and there's always that reining it in. It's like, best self-defense is running away, and hammering home that point. So I think it's important to also know what the other side looks like when it's like, it's almost, the message I get is like, if you're in that situation, this is why we train you. Like, you don't need to, you shouldn't be thinking about it. You won't be thinking about it. You don't need to think about fighting someone. It's almost like,
it kind of happened.
Consider your training, sort of thing, and
and that's it. And how about you though?
In school,
what
with the?
I mean, like, was there any bullying or physicalness or things like this?
Yeah, so I struggled with bullying quite a lot, and it was. I say it's more the physical side. It's hard to call it bullying almost, because it was pretty distressful for me. But similarly, it's nothing like what you hear in the news and that sort of thing. And cyberbullying hadn't really reached a point where it was a problem at our age. I mean, we're like 29, so 15 years ago we would have been 14, and so that cyberbullying, although most people had the internet, I think everyone had the internet and had just got broadband, sort of thing.
I remember those nights on, was it MSN Messenger?
Yeah, but you never had, because you never really had Facebook, you never really had anything like that. The bullying I experienced was things being shouted across the playground, and then like maybe in PE getting like tripped up and beaten up, and the odd occasion beaten like in the changing rooms. I remember a couple of times getting like hit and that sort of thing, but it was like the stronger sort of like chavvy kids seeing how hard they could throw a punch.
And this is it. And it's those same chavvy kids. They're the ones that, you do karate? All right then. Luckily, I'm going to bring my colour into this. Being mixed race in a school full of, like, mainly white kids. And the chavvy kids in our year, they were all either mixed race. There was one black kid in our year, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I automatically kind of got a cool card amongst the chavvy bullies, even though I had nothing to do with them. That's how I felt, so I was kind of lucky in that sense.
So that's another good point though. Do you think, and I've got it written down as well, do you think just being physically fit going into secondary school also gives you that bit of a cool card? Because I remember back, and I think there were a lot of kids, like the ones who got bullied were worse in PE, sort of thing. And there's the correlation of like, if you're overweight and you're not that quick, you're usually, I don't want to say you're usually not as smart or anything like that, but you're usually an easier target. And if you can run quick, it usually means that even if you're rubbish at football, at least if you can run with the ball, you'll outrun 2/3, 3/4 of the rest of the group.
Is it more about, so if you can't run quick, you don't look strong, you're not fit, it's a clear indication that I can physically best you. Right. So whether my brother being massive, no one messes with the tall people. No one messes with the guy that like has got the beard and looks like he's more mature. I think it's just a case of that. Like, who looks like I could beat up? The guy that stands like this. Not the guy that stands like this. And I think maybe through some of my, through the karate we've done. I was quite athletic. I was a faster one. I was played rugby and all this and this. So
you saying, did I know whether you did karate or not? I'm thinking back, I'm like, no, but I do remember you being like stupidly quick. And, like, obviously you were, when you get to who are the fittest, you've also got the sort of chavs in there.
Yeah, they're usually in there, aren't
they're
they?
the smokers as well. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
guys rise slightly above, and there's like I can only think of like 3 or 4 people who were like legitimately. Like you do sprint or even long distance, and like obviously me as a fat kid, I'm like, oh man, or the bleep test.
Yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'm like, you're sort of half taking bets on like, right, I need to make sure I'm not the first kid to drop out. But then I'm like, yeah, I wonder who's going to win. Is it going to be you?
Not me at that age. My asthma was pretty bad, you know.
But even still, you'd sort of
Like,
you'd still be like, where you had asthma, the chavvy kids had smoking. So it's like, there is like, I can think it like Rupert was probably, that we were sort of close to a mutual friend. I was like, yeah, Rupert will probably win, and then it's like, yeah, probably Jumoke or probably one of the.
He was. Did he do running?
Yeah,
he was at Birchfield or something.
Distance.
Okay.
But even still, you're talking about, like I say, the bleep test was always the one where it's like, this is going to be the worst day of my life, sort of thing. But then I think I saw at least amongst the boys, I feel like it's probably more important because it's that physical aspect again.
Yeah.
But if you can excel at a physical sport, if it's rugby, especially football, or just any of the running things, then you sort of just get your free pass sort of thing.
Sure.
Like say, cool kid card.
And I think, you could go into kind of maybe evolutionary psychological history in here. But who are the girls going to pick? The physical, stronger looking guys. And who's going to get bullied or get no interest from girls at that time? Yeah. Is the weaker looking, unfit, this kind of guys. And who was I listening to? But they were saying like bullies are actually good because they're forcing the weakest men to get higher. If the bullies in the year were like, it's fine, Chris, the way you are is great, you would have no incentive to change. Yeah. But then I know they do it in a horrible way and they hit you in this, but that probably was the biggest spark maybe for some other people as well to actually like to feel that pressure.
Yeah. I think it's interesting you say that. I'll try not to go off on too much of a tangent, but I know that there was a key turning point for me, and it was in adulthood, but just about adulthood, early 20s, where I had a panic attack. And I'd sort of been eating healthily up to then. So I used to weigh like 17 stone coming out of school into sixth form.
So that was 16.
Yeah, about 16 years old. And in comparison, I'm about 10 and a half stone, a bit less than that. So yeah, 16, 17 stone. And then about early 20s, I had a panic attack, and it was pretty minor, but I thought everyone's first panic attack, it seems to be quite common nowadays, or more common, but you sort of think you're going to die, and then I start to have these thoughts. I'm like, yeah, it's because I eat rubbish food and this and that. And after that day, it was like I made a conscious effort, and it was still little stepping stones here and there, but it was always like, if I'd have something bad to eat, it wasn't too bad, but if a couple of days of eating rubbish junk food, I'd start to panic and be like, almost panic myself into the same mode, and that would get me back out. But the whole build up is like through teenage years, getting bullied, and that sort of thing. So
I guess a lot of people would get bullied, go home, eat the food they're bullying you for.
Yeah.
But then maybe for some people it gets so low, it's like, I gotta make a change. I think you mentioned this last week or with me about with your mom, and you say, Mom, I need to eat better food, this and that, and you try to make the effort, but I guess, being only a young kid at that time,
barely know how to use the oven.
Exactly.
But my point is that you hear a lot of people who, like some of the most successful, inspirational, amazing people, had some sort of key like turning point that was their lowest point, and like properly sink or swim sort of thing, and that's if there's a positive to bullying, that is it.
Yes.
But I guess that so my lead-up question is, you didn't really have a key sort of breaking point then, I guess, where it sort of spurred you on. But interestingly, I'd say you've done really well. Like, you've done interesting things in life. You went to university. You're a sensei now. By all accounts, you've done really well. So has that been just discipline from an early age and try really hard at things, or that you were exposed, like you say, to gradings early on? So immediately the pressure of exams, tests were never a problem for you. Were there things at school that you saw your peers struggle with that you didn't, and you sort of knew that was because you of karate?
Good question. We still experienced different problems, or maybe even similar problems, as maybe a lot of other people did. However, maybe karate prepared me for some. What were my? I think a lot of my problems, and that was more situational from the area I lived in, and like how my identity.
Okay.
There were my problems.
Okay.
I'm a karateka, and no one else does karate. That makes me weird. I was a mixed race kid in a class full of white people, at school full of like predominantly white. So that made me feel weird. And my brother feels the same, and my sister feels the same. So that they were maybe that was our family problems.
Yeah.
Fitting in that way, and trying to feel accepted.
Did karate help with any of that? Some of that? Like, did you see other kids who were also maybe mixed race or different skin colour in a predominantly white school or setting? Did you feel like karate just sort of helped a little bit with like, well, at least I've got, when I'm in the dojo, no one looks at me differently or anything like that? Or
that's maybe why I didn't like it, is because in the dojo we were all the same. You don't
no one
see
thought
colour.
about it.
It was literally it was just belt cut, and then I come, but it's not like people pushed it in my face at school, but it's just little things that like, oh man, little things like the football thing, and people giving me stress or hard times I didn't know about football, but I then try and make an effort to I need to know football. I didn't care about football. About the music, people used to talk about Oasis. I wasn't listening to Oasis at home. My dad plays lovers rock and reggae at home. So for me to come to Oasis at school with everybody, I'm the weird one.
Yeah, okay.
And then it was fitting in. The karate maybe gave me some confidence to know that I could always swing a punch or defend myself if things got out of hand. But the idea was that I wouldn't even let myself get into that situation.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
What about the friend groups that you then eventually fell into? Because usually during secondary school, that's when you find your like a few long-term friends, or you start to hang around with the same kinds of people.
Yeah.
Was it due to you being like feeling that way, like a bit of an outcast, or like what were the sorts of friends you had in secondary school then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't speak to any of them now, so
Okay.
it says a lot.
Okay.
I think maybe only really when I went to I was 22 after university, and I went away first to India, then Nepal, then China, and all this. That's when I really became me, to be honest.
Okay.
I think before that I was always trying to kind of please people. I never really found myself. I've always been the youngest in the year.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't have any older brothers, so I got no one really to look up to, and I was maybe mentally and physically less developed than everyone else in the year.
Okay.
So it always put me on the back foot.
Okay.
So once I got to spend time on my own and really develop myself, that's when I feel good about myself. And I think the friends I had back in the day weren't really the best of friends.
What sort of friends were like? Were you the sort of hanging out with the coolest kids? Were you hanging around with the sort of nerds? Like, well,
I can remember specifically, like, say in like VZ, second school, when I went to sixth form, I had my girlfriend at the time who was 100% nerd.
Okay.
Right? And then, like, in the common room, who plays the music? Only the cool kids have the control. I could go up to the other end because I played rugby and was on the first team, and then play my iPad, whatever I wanted to play on my iPod, then walk over to my nerd girlfriend on the other side and be like, yo. So that again, the sport and the physicality of that allowed me to be a bit more of a social butterfly.
Okay.
Did I particularly like anyone from the cool kids? Yeah, they're okay. Same with the nerds? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't really know what your question was, but
no, it's more like what did, because you've obviously found yourself and you are yourself now.
More of myself now, maybe.
Yeah. A lot of kids struggle with that during their teen years.
Okay.
So, for example, for me, like I immediately found friends in the sort of, not the popular kids, obviously, but there were sort of the kids who I thought were cool, who were like skating and then I got into the music as well, and that was a massive influence for me. Like once I found music and metal, and that was a big thing when we were younger and getting into secondary school.
I remember. Have I got a flashback now from school? Was it you? Because a big moment for me was the music thing. You told me to listen to. I think it was Rupert and you told me to listen to Tenacious D.
Right. Yeah.
And I think I remember on the Year 9 playground, it was maybe one of you two gave me the CD or something. I went home, blew my mind. That was like another life.
Yeah.
Path.
Okay. Yeah.
It started off with Tenacious D, and and that took me down another thing. So what did I like? I like the skating thing, and then with that there was the music, but even that was metal. I don't listen to metal now. Not really.
But at least you enjoyed the music you enjoyed. When you were, because I remember you. Well, yeah, because I used to hang out with Rupert, and he was always like, he was really good at music and really good at skating. So I was like, oh, cool, I sort of want to be like him. But we were also friends as well, like really close friends. And then I remember you, and I was like seeing you outside of school. You weren't wicked at skating or anything like that, so it was almost like, you're not. Sort of.
I was just following though, wasn't I? Because no one had told me, or in my family or in the culture, skating wasn't a thing.
Do
you know what I mean? So I was, hey, those cool kids do the skating. I like that.
Okay.
And that was it really. I think I was really a follower until like later on in life, and now I'm really not, and I really don't care about other people. Did
you ever
other people's impressions of me?
Yeah. You don't care what people think in the nicest way possible, though. Yeah. Did you ever have situations when, let's say mostly hanging around outside of school or with your friends in school or with people in school, where you were put in? I'm thinking back to when we were teenagers. And I never really got offered drugs or a cigarette or anything like that. And all the stuff you hear about in primary school, it's like, say no to this. And it's like, I never got offered any of that. Like, it was it sounded like pretty tight. But were there any situations that you were in where you were like, this doesn't sit right with me? And perhaps it was because of karate, where you're sort of taught to generally be a good person, that sort of thing. Was it immediately obvious who the good kids were, or were there people who didn't do karate who had the sort of karate spirit, would you say, of like these people? You knew that if you were to get like hit by a car or something while you were skating, you know the people you could rely on.
I know what you
Because
mean.
it sounds like you were probably one of those people that everyone thought, cool, if Jumoke's with us, we won't get into trouble, sort of thing.
I'm not sure if they thought that, to be fair, because then again, I wasn't that necessarily boisterous or like this. I do know what you mean. I can remember like the smoking thing up the Driftfold, and one of the
was the little. It was a little green area, wasn't it?
But were you ever there on the Driftfold?
Yeah. It was just like straight after school, walk up the hill.
Yeah.
You were at the Driftfold, and it had a little hidden-ish area as well. Yeah. So it was weird because it was on a very main road as well. It wasn't like you're off to the park and then it's a secluded area. It's like, people walking by and kids from other schools and stuff.
So I do remember, being like very anti-smoking at the time, and I remember flicking a girl's cigarette at the end, and I got screw that. I do remember certain things, like when they want to stay out late or they want to like break in somewhere to go skate. I was always the guy like, hey guys, you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
So was that karate? Was that me just being cautious? I don't know. It's hard to separate the two because
you've born in it. That's part of it.
I could end up over analysing it. But I think you could definitely tell there were certain kids that kind of had a head on them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can imagine maybe you were like that.
Probably a bit, but I didn't have my. I wouldn't have been. I would have gone with the flow. I would have gone with whatever the. I didn't want to be the voice of reason almost. I didn't want people to, I just wanted to stay out of the way. Type thing. But on that note, what makes a good student then? Is that like a starting point, or can people who
in the classroom in the dojo?
A good karate. What makes can the dojo change people? So if you took one of those school bullies and put them in karate, do you think they would excel? Is there one size fits all?
It would definitely offer different things to different people.
Okay.
If I put one of those bullies in there, I think if I put one of the bullies in there, and hey bully, no, let's call him Fred. Hey Fred, we can do some sparring now, and Fred's gonna go. Even if he's a bully, and he's gonna feel that feeling, and I'm gonna punch him up. He'll be all right, but he's gonna feel the uncomfortableness. Now, next day at school, is he gonna want to swing punches at people when he's had punches swung at him the night before by Sensei? For me, I feel no. I think that's a no. I was talking to a parent last night, and her child was in reception year 1, and he was violent. He was like hitting people at school. After 2 weeks of karate, the mom said, after 2 weeks of karate, his behaviour changed.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think he was a bully or anything, but I think he was a bit boisterous. He was a bit couldn't sit still.
Right. Okay.
And the mom said last night to me, in 2 weeks he'd gone from that to like being able to control himself.
Okay. Is that just from receiving a few hits in class?
Well, he would have been a peewee, so he would have been 4 or 5. So he's not even necessarily fighting and hitting. He's doing blocks and these and stances and listening and us.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what is there anything that makes a good student, or is that people from different walks of life come and then they all sort of does every black belt look a lot similar compared to, say, the white belts, where there might be some who have never performed a kata or never performed in front of people in their life, never performed in groups, quite sheltered, and then there are others who are maybe they're older and they've been in actual fights and they've blooded noses and that sort of thing, but then they all turn into the same person.
No, I guess the black belt, our black belt has many different shades, I guess. I guess there's a mindset maybe to the black belt, not the end result, but the mindset is is probably the most important thing. And the things of respect, and to not throw your weight around and be like over physical, listening, to try and better yourself. I think these are more of the principles than a black belt. To say every black belt should be able to kick up here, that's not what it's about. I don't think.
Is that the biggest change you see in every white belt that comes through the door? Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's that everyone just has a mindset of like reverent respect, and that's what they transform. Everyone has to transform into that to get to the next level, or are there students as well who resist it, especially maybe adults, teenagers?
Teenagers like to resist it, because teenagers, you said what makes a good student, you need to know why you're there and what you're trying to get out of it. I talked about my Monday class, how we used to have great classes, and then they just focused on the fun that they felt made a good class, rather than actually it was the hard work that made a good class. And so you have to understand why you're there and what you're doing. The amount of times like we specifically do like a specific exercise, do this with your foot, then lift your foot, and but they'll just look at what they want to do, and okay, I'll just do that, and they haven't learned anything. So I guess it really is listening, knowing why you want to be there, and being humble enough to realise you don't know anything.
Are those your... I'm sure you can't have a favourite, but are those the sorts of students that are your favourites to teach, the best to teach?
The best ones are the ones with a beginner's mind.
Okay.
As soon as someone's got their cup empty, as soon as someone has their cup full, there's no point in being in the room, because you can't teach them anything. They often think they know more than the sensei.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And it's just not. The best students I'm thinking of right now are the ones that are willing to, even at black belt, forget everything and redo it. And this is what I do. This is what my brother's been doing with his kicks. And look how much you already could kick, and you kind of let go and has put so much on top, more knowledge.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So that's the most important thing with anything really, is having that beginner's mind, I think. Yeah.
What's the... I don't want to sound too controversial, but what's the worst thing then about being sensei? Or how long have you been sensei for? That's a good...
So I probably 3 years now.
Okay.
a full-time 100% sensei. Did I help as a kid? Like I would have helped a senpai, so I might have been a senpai for a few years as a kid. On my weekends, I'd be going to the centre and helping my dad.
How does it work? Was there sort of, you always sort of knew you were going in that direction, or was there
No, I've
discussion?
resisted it. I resisted it for so many years. Yeah.
Okay. Is that because you wanted to do your own thing outside of karate? Because
yeah,
obviously you went to uni and then you went abroad for a little while.
So yeah, I worked in some school for 2 years being a teaching assistant. That was it was a good experience, but the whole system, I hate it.
Okay,
Too much red tape, and went away, and then it was then when I realised like, karate's a good job. My dad set it up for me already. Why aren't I going for it?
Yeah.
So it was that really put me on the path of let's do this.
And I guess with having, did you sort of see the scope for you being able to run around and almost do what you want in regards to not necessarily the syllabus, but like you said, there's no red tape there. If you want to do something, you can do something. Was that one?
Yeah. Well, that was a big thing. Yeah. And I'm not really into the having bosses over me.
Yeah.
I've never had a boss I've never had a boss or a manager or whatever that I've thought was better at their job than what I was already doing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That sounds really horrible and arrogant and all this, but I feel like a lot of the time I could do better, and they're holding me back, and because I wasn't into sucking up to them or whatever, I was always kind of not the favourite employee.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though maybe I might have had the most potential or whatever, or I was good. So I think having me and answering to me and being responsible to me, and it's all on my back, I feel maybe it's better for me.
So with being sensei, then looking to the future a bit, is there? So I think of being a sensei is you learn what people have taught before you and you teach that. So it's almost like the opposite of having free reign. It's like karate's traditional. These are the moves. These are the katas. You can sort of put your own spice and flavour on it, but like I say, this is from me having done it for 2 and a bit months. What's the freedom that you get to?
To express myself.
Yeah. How do you now have a mission of like taking karate forward, or is it teaching slightly different to maybe the way your dad did, or?
Well, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, me and my brother work a lot together, and the way we get information across is different to my dad. And we've been focusing on different things, and that's allowed the standard to go up.
Okay.
My driving factor.
What's an example before you?
Even like the kicks.
Okay.
Just my dad can kick. He's now over 60. He's got 2 bad knees. When he does, he's not going to do a Yorkagiri or Mawashigiri the same as I am. He can do a nice like traditional Bam York, if you've ever seen them, where they use the ball of their foot. Okay. They don't really open the hips up in the same way.
Okay.
They just go round here. Whereas now we put it back and go out like a kick over.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So when we're teaching it, I just think that we're a bit more effective in trying to get that end result.
Okay.
And I think that's because me and my brother are opposite, but of the same stock. So, some kids might prefer the way I teach this thing, and my brother will come at it from a different angle. And with that, we're helping to develop, technique. We focus on different things. My brother loves to do kumite, I love to do kata, so these things together. Yeah, I think it works well.
Do you think the future for karate then is still very much, it's always going to be traditional, but the best, the way in which you move it forward is getting the information out to people? Is that literally it? And I guess what I'm leading on to is the technology piece as well, where I'm into technology and keeping up with tech trends, if you like. Technology I haven't seen karate being really impacted by technology, and that could be something like an app on a phone, or I doubt you can get like a remote karate teacher or coach or anything like that, whereas you can with virtually any other sport. I would say.
I was about to mention. So in the sports side of karate, I feel like there's a lot of technology there.
Okay.
Especially with the kumite. If you were to see a proper match now, I guess it's not high tech, but that's where you see all the more electronic devices, and they're just timing things and the scoring and the cameras and this and that. That's technical. Traditional side, nah, that's just, I think, basically the same as it always is. You know, just training, whatever that looks like. I don't think you need the technology aspect to add anything to the karate.
Do you think it's the sport aspect? Because I mean, the Olympics next year, that's going to be huge. People are going to be looking. You know, there could be a lot of people looking at karate for the first time. So if people, you know, what would you say to people who haven't watched karate and their first time watching it is going to be at the Olympics? So that's going to be kata and kumite as well. So if people watch, like I've seen judo at the Olympics, and I might build up this preconception of what judo is, and then go and practice judo. It's completely different. So, what would you say to people who watch kumite, like the sport, the karate sport? Is there sort of like that is karate, but or is there something else? Like, what's your opinion on it?
Karate, just like other martial arts, were designed to be against civilian combat, close quarters, against bad guys. They were never designed to fight two judokas against each other or two karatekas against each other. So that's why the judo, to me, looks a little bit, when you see it on the Olympics, doesn't look so hot. It doesn't drive into it. If I was to see that same judoka defending themselves against a bad guy on the street, that's where you see the magic.
Yeah.
Can you imagine someone that don't know judo getting lobbed on the floor by someone that does? When they both know it, it's just a push and pull. And it's the same with the karate side. They're both here fighting the same tactics, using the same book. That's not what real karate is, or the martial art. It's the use against those lives, like what I mentioned earlier in the playground. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That's a real life situation. Doing this to each other and bouncing around is only a sport.
So you almost want to be telling people like that's sport. It's very far removed from traditional karate. If you come to the dojo, you'll see what it's really like.
Yeah. Well, I think because the sports side is such an important part of the karate now. Yeah, we got to do the sport kumite and we do the sport kata and this, but it is only a section of everything else. I wouldn't judge karate on what I see at the Olympics. That's only like one aspect.
And is that parallel with the kata as well? Because I see the kata and at least I'm like, wow, that's something that maybe one day I'll be doing that.
Yeah.
And because part of me wants to do it. Or at least I might be able to recognise a few moves because and it's all choreographed, looks really nice and that sort of thing. So it's almost like the opposite of the preconceptions people have about karate. It's like they tune on, they see karate on the TV guide, like cool, they're watching it. They're watching people do kata. Like what if people are like, what is that really karate? What was your? I know what the sort of katas are supposed to be and what they're there for roughly. My early experiences of karate. But what would you tell people who are seeing someone perform a kata for the first time who's probably a bit puzzled, probably like, what
well,
is this karate?
I guess the idea of the kata is where all our self-defense comes from, the kata, and it was a way to practice these moves without openly me and you doing it. So I could practice on my own, or it even doesn't look like it is deadly. So in a time where there's like martial law and I'm not allowed to carry weapons and I can't be shown to like defend myself. For me to practice a kata and I'm thinking about the moves, that's not self-defense kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? But if I can practice this, that's what it's used for. The kata is like the self-defense for it. Now, when you see it in sport karate, they have taken each move and tried to perfect it. So rather than the practicality of what this might do, they're now just looking at what does it look like, the perfect stance. Bam, bam. Look here this way. So you've made a story out of the moves rather than thinking these moves are to use for this.
It's almost like turned into an art piece, right?
Yeah, like an art and a
way.
performance piece. Yeah, an art
performance
piece. Yeah, because I do like to see karate as an art as a whole. It is a martial art, but the kata you're gonna see at the Olympics is a performance piece. The kumite you're gonna see is a sporting combat, heavily regulated. Do you know what I mean? It's not really for me, it's not the height of karate. They're great athletes, and what they do is great.
It's almost like who can react the quickest in a way.
Yeah. It's literally like a game of two.
The same move set.
Yeah, exactly. It's a game. You have to learn the rules, know how to exploit the rules, and how to do that. So, there's certain kicks that now are more viable to do in kumite that you would never really think about doing in real life. The uramawashigeri, where you come back and on the side, like you wouldn't put that much effort into perfecting that kick for a real fight.
Yeah, okay.
But when you're doing kumite in sport, then it makes more sense because you can only get that one touch and then it's over.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think the best thing to do really is just to go into a club and to see what they offer.
Yeah.
Really, and that karate might spark your interest. There are clubs, if you really like the idea of the sports side of karate, there are clubs that really focus on that. And there are clubs that focus on just traditional. I would say we're somewhere in the middle, trying to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can offer all of it. Where you've got you and your brother, I think you guys quickly, and I see it as well, you guys quickly identify who are the ones that are interested in what. And I guess you want to push that interest whilst following the syllabus as well to keep people really readily
engaged. It's a hard job to create a complete karateka with doing the sports side, doing the traditional side, making you fit at the same time. It's a lot to fit in.
Yeah. So we've been rambling for a little while now, so I'll give you some open questions to finish off. So it maybe leads on quite well. If you had full control over karate and it being in the UK education. So I from reading some of the older karate books or reading stories, you sort of hear that karate in Japan sort of not forced its way into schools, but all of a sudden it was being practiced by classroom. Almost like in a PE style scenario, and it's like, okay, that's quite unusual. It is my first impression of that. But if you had the choice, if you were like head of karate in the UK, the Prime Minister came to you and said, where would you like karate? What can we do? Would you have dojo in every street? Would it be one class once a month in each school? Or
to be good at anything or to really get the effects, it has to be persistent. So once a month wouldn't be enough. You could do like kids do like their yoga on Friday, yoga and meditation on Friday, don't they, for half an hour. So maybe I would on a Monday or whatever, one day a week, they need to have a class. Maybe I think that'd be a great thing to do for discipline, for the self-defense side, for the confidence. You'd probably find a lot of the bullies would probably ease off a little bit. And if they're training imagine like we're training with the bullies and that, and we had that class, and they saw you, that even though you might have been this and that and not physical, you could still throw a punch, and they're seeing you defend yourself. You had to work with that bully, you swept him, and you did this. I feel like they go, oh, Chris can actually do this and that, and so can that kid, or so can he. We all got that level of, some level of self-defense. I feel like that would have actually helped the weakest in our year, rather than just benefit the strongest. So if it was up to me, maybe I'm a bit older and traditional, what's missing in this country is like discipline and respect and they ain't learning that from the music that they're listening to. They're not learning that from their parents. They're not learning that from the TV shows. They need to be in any form of training, really.
Yeah. Okay.
I think serious training to really get that.
So given unlimited time and money, then so you are sensei. You are relieved of your duties for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Hopefully on good terms.
Yeah.
What are you going to do now, sort of thing? Let's say you're by yourself. Obviously, you've lived karate all your life. It doesn't even have to be staying karate, but I know you're also quite passionate about karate. I know you wouldn't differ away, because I think like, oh yeah, I'd have this massive dream of doing this, this, and this. But what would you do? Would you straight away think, I want to, further my training? What would it be?
Oh, so you mean like if I wasn't here at this job and I had enough money and time to do what I wanted?
Yeah, fully. Well, let's focus on the karate aspects. What would you want to improve on straight away? Where would you go to do it? What would you do, or what would you like to explore? What are you curious about at the moment?
Yeah, I wish I probably had more time to seriously train different martial arts.
Okay.
Because karate is such a stand-up striking art, I would go for something different, whether it be judo or jiu-jitsu, which is throwing and then like groundwork, would be my two things that I work on. But then also there's things like the Tai Chi, the softer martial arts of working with energy or just being relaxed. I think in my dream life, I'd probably have a little dojo on a little plot of land somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And
in this country, or?
Yeah, good question. Too cold, really. My ideal country, I don't know. Having a Chinese wife, I thought, I'd happily go to China and live there if everything was in place. But I'd love to teach people on imagine having like a class of 5 adults, and we're there to just get good.
Yeah.
That's what I'd love. I don't like teaching the 30 people class when a lot of them don't want to be there. A lot of them can't be bothered or whatever. That's what I don't like. It's to put my energy where it's most appreciated.
Yeah.
For people that really want to improve themselves.
Yeah. That's cool. I think I'll wrap up there, because
should we wrap up?
I haven't been timing it, and it's definitely been going on for it feels like it's probably gone on for 2 hours.
Really? Yeah,
I don't know.
It could have done.
But thanks.
Yeah, no, it's been good.
That was great.
It's hard to talk about these inner feelings and being filmed for it.
I know.
It's I hope I haven't said anything too stupid, and I think it's been okay.
You'll see see how many students turn up after we release
Yeah.
You'll know for sure. If it's double, then
I might have some people from our old school turn up. Like, what you say about me? I'll bang you this time. Is this the part of the episode where we talk like what's going to happen next time, what we plan for the future?
Yeah. So this is episode 2. We sort of half planned. I'd say the next 3 to 4 episodes, but it'd be nice to hear from people what they like as well.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to hear what is enjoyed.
We haven't even uploaded anything yet, have we? So
as of today, which is we're sort of middle of December.
Yeah. We wanted to maybe start with our next episode, which was actually going to be filming my dad.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. And I think that would be a good story, wanting to document his life and his karate.
Yeah.
I think from that, me and Chris would then, like maybe in the new year, look at some books and try and get into studying the origins of karate and study it from like a fresh perspective to see that. But yeah, I mean, we could upload this first, couldn't we?
Right, yeah, we could, yeah.
And then by next week have the 3rd episode, and we can be asking people what they want to see and what they like.
Yeah.
And this. Still haven't come up with a name. We have written down a couple though, haven't we?
Yeah.
So we just need to be like, alright, let's stick to this.
Yeah.
And do it.
Just put it out to the general populace, see what they think.
That's it.
Just say, if you were to make a podcast, what name would you like? And, See what the students say, maybe.
See what the students say. That's a good question with them tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we ask them in class? I'll get you up and say, me and Chris are doing this. Don't say, I don't want to listen to that loser talk.
I was going to say, please don't. But then I'm like, no, we need a podcast name. If that's the only way that we get one.
I'm usually good at naming things, you know. But I think when it's my own thing and then I want to get it perfect, it's hard.
Yeah, but cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, wicked. No,
That's
thank
the
you. That is the end. I guess we can start. This next time we're not going to have this crash on us, are we?
Hopefully not.
We had the.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. And we might have some different tea as well.
We'll finally get some different tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're about to record some videos.
We're about to. Yeah, a lot of things.
If we've got time.
Happen. Yeah.
So
we can. We'll have a good day, and boss.
See you later.
Yeah. Take it easy. Hello, and thank you for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like, subscribe, comment, or leave a review. Next episode, we will be looking at the Kyohan, the master text written by Gichin Funakoshi. So make sure to grab your copy, and we're going to be looking through just the start of it. So have a great Christmas, and until the next episode, us.